Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Oh My Allergies podcast. This is your hostess with the mostest, Valencia. And if you are new here, the Oh My Allergies podcast is a podcast about all things allergies. Whether you have food allergies, seasonal allergies, skin allergies, or even your pet has allergies, Oh My Allergies is a safe space for discussions for those that need a bit of advice and support from someone who understands their struggle. Let's learn how to navigate life and learn how to thrive with our allergies together. Hey guys, welcome back to the Oh My Allergies podcast. So before we get started, like we normally do, we do all the housekeeping things. So make sure you are subscribed to the Oh My Allergies podcast on your podcast platform of choice. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, the whole nine, wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow the Oh My Allergies podcast on Instagram, which is at Oh My Allergies, to keep up with what we are doing and to see some really fun content on there. Rate and review the podcast. Hopefully it is 5 stars, fingers crossed, on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And keep on sharing the podcast with people you know and don't know. So today's episode, we actually have a special guest on the podcast. I am talking with Rachel and Leah Packer of the YouTube channel Because I Said So, Cooking for You. I really enjoyed having the conversation with them. We talked about their allergy journey as a family, Crohn's disease, navigating the kitchen with food allergies, why they started their YouTube channel, and honestly, just so much more. But before we get into the conversation, you guys know I got to tell you all what's been going on. So what's been going on with me? Well, this week I am still in the middle of finals, but I am wrapping up my finals, which I am so excited about, but also it's kind of bittersweet because this is actually my last finals week ever of like undergrad, which is just very hard to think about and really hard to be like, wow, like this is it, like this is the end. It's like so crazy. But I am actually in the middle of writing my last essay. So thankfully in that class, we were supposed to have an exam, but the professor ended up changing it into it being an essay, which if you guys listened to last week's episode, then you know that I prefer essays over exams any day. I'm just really, really excited about the format of the final. Not that I have to do the final because I'd rather do other things than write an essay, but it is what it is, and we are just going to get her done. This past weekend, oh my gosh, I had a headache with literally one of my finals. I'm recording this on a Sunday, and this actually happened to me earlier today. So it's very fresh in my mind as I'm talking to you guys about this. So, okay, how do I explain this? So I was in the middle of finishing a final paper that I had for one of my classes, one of my communication classes. And I was writing it. I was done. I had enough time to be able to grammar check it, make sure I properly cited everything, all of those different types of things. So when I go to try to end up saving the document right before I go to actually submit it, my Microsoft Word app on my computer started crashing. And it would just freeze up, and then I'd have to force quit it. But then it wouldn't save like where I was last when I was in the document. And so it was just very frustrating because I could not do anything with the document. It was weird. Like I think there was something wrong with the document. Like there were words that were in the document, but it wasn't being seen. So I guess it was more so focused. Like I don't even really know how to actually explain what happened. But it was like my computer was going really slow. Microsoft Word was just not wanting to work for me. Then my computer magically popped up and said, by the way, you're running out of disk space and your memory is kind of whack. So I was like, okay, so I'm running out of memory and I'm running out of space on my computer. So this is just great. And I have literally minutes before this final is due. So I'm like freaking out, and I'm like emailing my professor, and then I'm like, I hope the professor is looking at their email because I know I probably wouldn't be on a Sunday. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I was so stressed out. I was on the verge of tears because I was like, I am so close to the finish line. I cannot let one final not allow me to graduate. So I was just like, oh my gosh, like I was just freaking out. I was able to finally be able to turn in my final paper for this class, but gosh, it was like a roller coaster with this paper. And so I'm just happy that it's just out of my possession right now. Like I'm just so happy. But that was how my Sunday went. And then, like, I had some things to do for my sorority today as well. But we're just basically just wrapping up the school year. And it's kind of bittersweet, especially because I'm leaving my chapter. And it was very sad day today because we were all crying. And I'm not a crier, but I was a crier today. And it was just so weird to, like, reflect on my experience in college and just to think about what it was like stepping foot on my campus the first day and to see where I am now and where I'm gonna go in the future is very exciting but a little bit scary. But that's pretty much what I've been up to. I've literally been live, breathing, and eating my computer because of finals. But yeah, that's basically what's been going on with me. Just been very focused on school, focusing on finishing strong, and trying to look towards the end of the week of when I get my degree. Well, I won't actually get my degree, because they won't mail it, but you know what I'm saying. But that's basically what's been going on with me. So I guess now I will get right into my foodie likes. So the first foodie like I'm going to be talking about is from the brand 365 by Whole Foods Market. Who's surprised? Not me. It's the Korean barbecue sprouted brown rice crisp. I think I got the name correct. I'm literally looking up the name now to make sure that I'm saying it correct and I'm not missing anything. But yeah, that is the name. And these I don't really know how to describe the flavor, but the flavor of them is just very unique. Like it's sweet, but like not too sweet. And I like how it's a little bit of spicy, but it's not too spicy because I like spice, but I don't want to feel like I'm eating a jalapeno all the time. But the flavor of it is very, very strong, but they are so good. I was looking for something to add into my rotation when it came to like little like snacks because as you guys know, I'm a big fan of the Dang Rice Crisp and the flavor sriracha. So I was really big fan of those and I was looking for something that was kind of similar but a little bit different, and this kind of hit the mark for me. So they taste really good. They're made with sprouted brown rice and cauliflower, believe it or not, but it's a very unique texture to them. I don't even know how to explain it. Like when you see them, you think that they're going to taste like a rice cake, but because of the cauliflower, like it kind of tastes like a half rice cake. But the flavor is really good. I know when I looked up reviews online beforehand, like got a lot of very mixed reviews, but I personally like them and I get them all the time when we go. Like if I'm low on them, I will get a new bag and it's just really, really tasty. And there's like the salty and the sweet. You can taste the barbecue, you can taste hints of garlic, you can taste hints of onion. So if that sounds something that's really interesting to you, then I highly recommend trying them because they are just chef's kiss. They are just so good. The next foodie like that I'm going to talk to you guys about is from the brand Sweet Earth, and it's one of their plant-based deli slices products. So it's their applewood smoked flavor ham deli slices, and it's vegan deli meat. So what we've been doing lately with it is putting it actually on pizza because we've been getting Whole Foods' pizza crust. They actually make just a pizza crust that you can just put in the oven for about maybe like 7 to 10 minutes long without having to get like the ones that look like tortillas. Like this is like New York style pizza crust and it is literally thebomb.com. Highly recommend. That's another one of my foodie likes. We've just been getting them so much when we're in the mood for pizza just because it's such an easy option. There's not a lot of bad ingredients in there or really any at all. It's super clean. It tastes really good. And it's a good option if you don't want to have to deal with pizza dough and you kind of want it ready already. And plus, compared to how many slices you're able to get out of it, it doesn't really cost too much. And plus, normally it's on sale when we get it, so normally it's maybe around like $3.99 or something like that, and I think regularly it prices for around like $6 or $7, which still is pretty good. But we've been getting that crust from Whole Foods and then topping the pizza with some vegan cheese and then getting these meatless ham slices and putting them on there. And guys, like, just the flavor of the ham slices is just literally out of this world. Like, they are just so good. I highly recommend, even if you don't eat meatless or plant-based or whatever, however you eat, it just tastes really fresh. The spices are just so delicious. My mom recently used the ham slices and made a sandwich and said that it tasted delicious. So highly recommend. It's so versatile. You can put it on pizza, you can use it for a sandwich, you can use it for a breakfast sandwich, you can put it in salad. Highly recommend you try these meatless deli slices from Sweet Earth because they are just so good. So good. But those are my foodie likes for this week. So with that being said, I'm going to get right into the allergy news. So this week's allergy news article comes from Eat This Not That, and the article is titled, "This Food is Becoming a Bigger Allergy Threat Than Nuts, Data Says." So in this article, they talk about how a lot of parents know how seriously American schools have taken nut allergies in recent years. You know, we've talked about on the podcast how there's a lot more peanut-free classrooms and nut-free classrooms and things of that sort that are coming, whether you're in elementary, middle, high school, or even on the college level. So now they're saying that medical experts are reporting that there's a new food allergy threat that's every bit as serious. And it's something that's been a staple part of the American diet for so many years. And it's a food that some may say is going to be harder to get rid of from all the places that children go. And it's, drumroll please, cow's milk. WebMD has reported that food-induced allergic reactions led to a 25% increase in hospitalizations among children between 2006 and 2012, which is according to an analysis of pediatric hospital data that was performed in 2019. And so they're saying that now cow's milk is the most common food allergen in children who are younger than 5 years old. And then even in the UK, cow's milk was the food allergy that was most likely to lead to death in school-age children, which is just very, very sad to hear. As a person who has a dairy allergy, it's not fun being allergic to dairy because a lot of kids get made fun of because they're like, oh, you don't get to have ice cream, or oh, you don't get to have cereal, and blah, 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 blah. But the article is talking about how having an allergy to cow's milk is one of the most distressing of the food allergies. And it's just because a lot of people are unaware that it can cause anaphylaxis, which is, as we've talked about on the podcast, such a very severe situation. And now a lot of people do not think about how much of cow's milk is in the food that a lot of people traditionally eat every day. It's, like I said, it's something that's in ice cream. It's something that's in cereal bars. It's something that's even in some chips that you purchase from the store. So if you are a big fan of like sour cream and onion chips or cheddar cheese flavored chips or really anything like that, normally it has milk in there. And that's something that I think a lot of people do not realize. And so they're talking about how a report is explaining how cow's milk has been such a popular drink for children because of its being very appealing to calcium and vitamins and having other nutrients in it like protein. But some of these very same proteins are very triggering that the body identifies and attacks, which produces the allergic reaction that we've talked about on the podcast so much. It can be something that's considered on the lower end of the spectrum all the way up to being full-blown anaphylaxis, and how they say some experts say all of this is why it's so important to be able to educate the public about the dangers of dairy today. So I think that it's very interesting that more and more articles are coming out talking about how cow's milk might be a threat to society. But I think it's very interesting because I've seen like different articles and claims online about how they say like the good majority of people actually have some sort of intolerance, or they're allergic, or something like that. So I think that it's just very interesting that now more and more we're starting to see more reports saying how cow's milk might not even be the best for humans, or it might just be because it's becoming much more of a bigger food allergy threat. And having cow's milk, to me, it's always been something that's just been really weird, that I feel like society kind of has really just accepted the fact that humans drink cow's milk. And I know when I talk with my friends, I always bring up, well, can you imagine a cow drinking your mother's breast milk? And then people are like, no, that's just so weird. And I'm like, okay, well, if that concept's weird, then why do you think that it's okay for you to drink cow's milk? And then people are like, well, I never really thought about it like that. And I'm like, well, when you kind of put things in perspective like that, it's kind of weird that humans are drinking milk from another animal. Like, it's just kind of weird how that concept is. So hopefully more and more studies and articles are going to come out talking about why food allergies should be taken seriously, and how I think cow's milk is kind of one of those allergies that people tend to forget about or tend to not really fully understand it and the symptoms and the anaphylaxis that could be attached to it depending on how your body reacts to it. So I think, it's really important for more and more of these types of articles to surface so that we can keep having these discussions on why the public should be more informed in terms of the different food allergies that are out there and how they can affect different people, and how just because you might not be familiar with the allergy doesn't mean that A, it doesn't exist, and B, that it's not as important as other ones that are more so in your face. But that is this week's allergy news. Like always, the allergy news article will be linked in the show notes. I know last week, if you were one of the very first people to listen to the podcast, the show notes did not have the allergy news article. So we were able to update that, but usually we're pretty good with being able to have the allergy news article that's discussed in each episode linked in the show notes. So hopefully when you go to listen to this episode and you look into the show notes, you will see this week's allergy news article, because normally it's always there just so that you can be able to do your own research and look at the article yourself, because we don't touch everything that's in these articles. So we always try to promote and make sure that you're doing your own research and you are reading these articles as well. With that being said, we're going to get right into today's episode, the meat of the episode, which is my conversation with Rachel and Leah Packer of Because I Said So, the YouTube channel. So we're going to talk about cooking with food allergies. We're going to be talking about their family's allergy journey, and we're even going to play a really fun game at the end. Before we dive right into today's conversation, I want to tell you a little bit more about today's guest. So Rachel holds a Master of Social Work from Yeshiva University and currently works as a freelance writer and wellness coach with an emphasis on food allergies, nutrition, and recipe development. Her interest in nutrition directly correlates to her son's food allergies and her daughter's diagnosis with Crohn's disease. During quarantine, Rachel and her daughter Leah created Because I Said So, a YouTube mother-daughter cooking show teaching college students easy recipes. Leah is an undergraduate student at the University of Maryland with a double major in theater and communications. She is a performer, a writer for Broadway World, and the content creator for Because I Said So, where she manages the creation, filming, editing, and marketing. While they were excited to create Because I Said So, they were worried that their food allergies and restrictions would cause people to ignore their recipes, and they never even dreamed that the exact opposite would happen. They are continually climbing with multiple requests for allergy-free recipes across the demographic board. This quirky show, complete with a dose of mother-daughter banter, now provides weekly basic recipes that are inclusive to all, especially those with food allergies. So let's get right into today's conversation with today's guests, which is Rachel and Leah Packer of Because I Said So, Cooking for You. Welcome to the Oh My Allergies podcast, Because I Said So, with Rachel and Leah Packer. How are you all doing?
Oh, we're doing great. This is so exciting.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you guys on here to be able to talk about, your YouTube channel, which is so fun and exciting.
Oh,
And,
thank you.
yeah, and to be able to talk about, food allergies and all those other different types of things. But before we get started, each episode I talk about my foodie likes. So basically, I talk about my favorite items that are food related. It could, be a snack. It could be a book about food. It could be a favorite meal that you just had recently, whatever floats your boat. So I wanted to ask you all, what are some of your favorite foodie likes right now?
Ooh, oh my gosh. What are some of your... Oh, me?
Yeah, you can start.
Okay, what are some of my favorite foodie likes recently? Oh my goodness. So we make this one dish called jeweled quinoa. It's like quinoa and there's like all different types of veggies in it. So like butternut squash and roasted onions. And we just made it last week. We just celebrated Passover, which is a Jewish holiday. We just made it for Passover. I think I ate like 9,000 servings. It was so good. I can't stop thinking about it. Like it was so good.
It's always a challenge finding stuff for your vegetarian daughter, who has been a declared vegetarian since she was like 6 years old. When
I read a poem.
She read the poem From the Turkey's Point of View by Shel Silverstein, which empathetically talks about the turkey and how they feel on Thanksgiving.
I said, that's it, I'm done.
And she's like, that's it. I'm like, thanks, Shel. Thanks.
Yeah, mom's not too fond of old Shel.
Oh, wow.
So jeweled quinoa has
That's
become
a big foodie like. What's one of your foodie likes?
Okay, well, I'm a classic kind of girl. Like, I am all about the chocolate chip cookie.
Ooh.
That is it. Like, you can...
I was waiting for you to elaborate on that.
offer like a really fancy dessert or something that's really complicated looking or really decadent. But if you offer me like a cup of coffee and a really solid chocolate chip cookie, I am yours.
Yeah, that's a big foodie like for you. I feel like it's a constant foodie like for you.
Totally. I'm all about the classic chocolate chip cookie. And it has to be a good cookie. It can't be.
Oh my goodness.
No,
but
I'm very particular about chocolate chip cookies, right? It has to be the quintessential chocolate chip cookie. It has to emulate everything I
Oh my God.
In a chocolate chip cookie.
No, I definitely agree with both. I know for me growing up, I never really was too big of a fan of quinoa. I didn't really like the texture that well. But now that I'm older and in college and stuff, like I love quinoa. And so that jeweled quinoa sounds delicious. So I'm definitely going to have to try that.
Yeah.
And then for cookies, chocolate chip cookies, always been a really big fan of chocolate chip cookies. And I'm also particular about how they are too, because I don't like ones that are like too crunchy, but then I don't like ones that are like too soft where it's like you just blow on it and it breaks.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. The other thing I'm huge on is, I know this sounds really silly, but
oh God, what?
It kind of saved us. It is roasted vegetables. Like you can take
your foodie like is roasted vegetables.
It is, because you can take an ordinary vegetable and you can elevate it by roasting it.
Okay.
It brings out all the caramelization. Okay, you're laughing at me.
It's a real shame that you can't see an eye roll through a podcast.
Just imagine the emoji all the time. You know how they all float up at once?
Yes.
Yeah, that's her. All the time.
Oh my goodness.
All the time.
Okay, I'll take roasted veggies. That's fine.
If you get me mad, my New York accent's going to come out. So.
We'll talk about roasted veggies more.
No, I understand that though, because I wasn't a fan of Brussels sprouts until I had a roasted Brussels sprout. And then that completely changed my life. So I get that.
It does. They taste so amazing and it's so easy and it's a great way to get people to eat their vegetables.
Good point.
Listen, this is what I do. I tell people how to roast vegetables. So.
Especially with an air fryer. An air fryer has definitely become my best friend. I love the air fryer.
We need to get that.
We have not crossed over to the air fryer
yet. Think about it, like we see it in like those like Best Buy catalogs and I like circle it with a black Sharpie like this.
Definitely a gadget that I have not succumb to.
Highly recommend it. Me and my family, we use it pretty much every single night, whether it's roasting vegetables, whether I roast like chickpeas in it, whether that's being able to make like homemade like home fries, or whether it's putting fish in there because I'm a pescatarian myself. I just love it. It's just so diverse. You can use it for so many different things. I love it. So highly recommend.
That sounds so good.
We may have to buy one.
Yeah, we are right after this.
But another question I have for you guys is if you could describe, having food allergies, having, immune conditions, kind of all of that type of stuff in one word, what would it be and why?
We should do the exact same thing.
Challenging.
I get that.
It's very challenging.
I was going to say that my word is frustrating, which it definitely is, but I'm trying to think of a word where it shows that there's a challenging side to it, but there's also, I'm not going to say positive, but there's things that I've learned from it that's kind of connected me to a new community and made me, I guess, a more understanding person. So if you can sum all of that up in a word, I'm trying to think of it currently.
It's definitely made us more compassionate about other people's causes.
Yeah.
We understand what it's like to have autoimmune issues, food allergies. It's definitely made us more sensitive to other people's issues. So I think it has, in that respect, there's a positive there, just because.
Yeah. I think I've decided on my word, by the way, while you were
Okay, go
talking.
ahead.
My word is journey. Ah, yes, because I feel like that gets the ups and the downs. It's definitely a process, and there's no like real finish line to it. So we're on this journey. I'm sure so many listeners just went, "Oh my God."
Groan. Is there a groan emoji?
But that is my word. That is my word.
No, but I agree with both of them, because especially when I first found out that I had food allergies, it was, very frustrating, and it is a continuous journey that you're on, every single day. And there's highs, like you said, and then there's lows, like real low lows. Whether you have allergies or immune conditions or both, it's definitely, I like to say it's a roller coaster for sure.
It is a roller
Oh,
coaster, and I
yes.
think it makes you really appreciative of the good days.
Yeah.
Being more grateful for the days where you don't really think about it, or it's not bothering you as much, or you don't have any pain that day,
That's a really
or
good point.
so it really does make you think about it makes you grateful for your body and how it functions and when it's functioning.
Yeah, for sure. And being able to, like you said, appreciate like the smaller things in life. And, when you typically, if you don't have to deal with any types of, immune conditions or allergies or different types of like restrictions of some sort, you don't really tend to think about those types of things. Like you said, it has made me personally be more considerate of, my surroundings and who I'm around, and, trying to make sure that, not only am I safe, but the people around me are safe too, because you don't know who you could be around, whether you're in a classroom and you could be around somebody that has peanut allergies or dairy allergies or weed allergies or whatever the case may be. You just don't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. But now I want to ask you guys the question of the Oh My Allergies podcast, which is, what is your Oh My Allergy story?
All right. Also, viewers, if you're listening to this, you couldn't see, but I did a nice drum roll for
Listeners.
that.
They're not
Listeners, they're not
viewers.
viewers. Sorry, podcast listeners. Okay,
It's a
go.
good thing your mom is here.
Oh my gosh, just tell her my allergy story.
It's a really long story, so I will consolidate it. We've actually been dealing with food allergies for 14 years. And of that 14 years, she hasn't even had food allergies. That came actually later on after she was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, where we figured out that she also had food allergies.
That's chapter 2. We'll start
That's
with
chapter
chapter
2. But 14 years ago, I mean, when you think about the landscape, it was so hard 14 years ago, because 14 years ago, when you think about it, there was no robust internet at that point. There wasn't a lot of social media. And whatever social media we had was really in its infancy. Facebook was literally just a few years old. I don't even think we had Instagram yet. There was no Snapchat. So we didn't have any of the support, groups and recipes and, hey, and, do you know what this is? And did you hear the ingredients on that? We didn't have any of that. We didn't have anything on the market. There were like 2 chocolate, like Enjoy Life, I think was like one of the first, in Vermont chocolate or something. There was like nothing on the market really that was safe. So it was a real struggle for me as, you know, a young mom with just
You didn't even say who had allergies.
Yeah, it was my son, Ari, who is 16 now, and he was, what, 4 at the time?
Yeah.
3. He
He was
3.
allergic to eggs, citrus at the time, which he outgrew, and nuts.
Tree nuts and peanuts.
Yeah.
And it was unfortunate. We had a very insensitive doctor at the time who basically said, oh yeah, here's a 5-page list of everything you can't eat, and here's your epi, and see ya. So yeah, we didn't have support groups. I didn't know where to look. There weren't a lot of, you know, really reputable websites at that point about food allergies. It was mostly a lot of people in chat rooms, and each story scarier than the other. So it was really hard for me, a lousy cook and not a baker, kind of like a bake-a-phobe, I called myself, you know, who relied on a lot of store-bought items, to now I actually had to like figure it all out. And there were no cookbooks. There were no food allergy cookbooks. There were vegan cookbooks, which took care of the egg thing, but you know, vegan cookbook has a lot of nut stuff in them also, as fillers and binders and whatever. So I had to really kind of pick through a lot of things and start to sort of pick up the pieces and make sure that everybody, I mean, if I tell you that Ari ate more yogurt that year than
He ate so much yogurt
than any year, I
remember that,
because that's all I felt safe giving him, was that had some kind of protein. It was like yogurt and fruit, and because he didn't like meat and nobody was eating vegetables because I hadn't learned how to roast them yet.
Oh my God.
So it was a real struggle.
I just remember the family diet being very limited. We were scared a lot, and I didn't have allergies at the time, but I ate like egg and nut free for Ari. Like I was like 8, and I still knew that something was like different.
So, you know, the thing is you really, when you're faced with these kinds of issues, you know, with adversity, you have 2 choices. I mean, you can sit in the closet and cry, which I did very often. But at some point, you know, I had to pull myself together and really feed my family and figure out how to do it. And
you did.
And I did.
You really did.
But it took a while. It wasn't easy. It's not a Cinderella story. And there
was a lot of trial and error.
Oh, yes.
I remember there were some recipes that tasted
my poor kids were like guinea pigs. I mean, even the ducks on the lake
would not eat your biscuits.
Not eat the biscuits. I mean, some of it was pretty bad. Holidays were kind of lackluster because all of the things that we would normally associate with a holiday, you know, food-wise, you know, symbolic foods or, you know, family traditions, I didn't know how to make them. I would always buy them. So I would always try to emphasize other things about the holiday, you know, that didn't deal with food. But the fact is that there's a huge connection with culture and food. You can't deny it. Right. And the kids knew it. And I'm like, oh, don't worry, guys. We'll just make a really pretty table setting and it'll all be great. And they're like, yeah, but what about blah, blah?
I think the special thing, though, was that every year there was improvement. Like every year there was a new dish you learned how to make. Every year there was a new cookbook. Every year you found someone new. And every year got better until, honestly, like growing up, I knew I had allergies. Well, that comes later. But growing up, I knew we were an allergy-friendly household. And while it affected my life, I also was able to eat like everywhere because I had stuff that you made. And I think that every year got a little bit easier. My part of the story comes in about 10 years later, after Ari was first diagnosed with food allergies. Yeah, it was 13.
Yeah, 13.
10 years later, we were kind of in our nice allergy groove.
Things were quote unquote normal.
Baking egg free, baking nut free. Life was all right. We had our alternative little baggies. Whenever they had like birthday parties at school, I'd be like, I've got my cookies. It's okay. Like we were okay. When I was 12 years old, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which is an autoimmune condition where basically my immune system attacks my small intestine. It causes a lot of like stomach pain, joint pain, and it doesn't go away. Like there's treatment, but there's no cure. So when I first got diagnosed, my stomach was a mess. I couldn't eat anything. Like everything hurt. So now we were faced with not only the obstacle of cooking allergen free, but giving me something that I could physically eat. They didn't want to like disrupt my stomach or my like gut, which was like really healing. So I couldn't eat seeds, gluten, dairy, beans,
Kind
raw
of hard for a
vegetables. Yeah,
vegetarian.
I know. Raw vegetables, anything that wasn't
Yeah.
cooked because it like hurt. So I think I was living off of like cheese and
Smoothies,
crackers and
no,
smoothies,
smoothies, and
gluten-free crackers.
used
We bought
to
those all the time.
grind. I used to make vegetables that literally, if you would
Blew on it,
blow on it, it would like just collapse. And I would, make all sorts of purees and
a lot of purees. But I started getting better. My gut started healing. It was a few months later. And then I was diagnosed with food allergies. So
she had a reaction at school.
I had a reaction at
Wow.
school because nuts always made my tongue itch. And I was like, are there nuts in this? And they were like, no. And I was like, okay. Like looking back, I can't believe I would ever do that. But I was like, okay. So I had a cookie that had macadamia nuts in it. I had a pretty significant reaction. I didn't have to go to the hospital, but it was enough to have to leave school. And then I went to the doctor and we found out that I was allergic to all nuts. And they gave me my EpiPen and I was on my way. But now
it sounds so easy when you say it.
I know, right? Then I've kind of gone from
wasn't that simple, but okay.
They just gave me it and I left.
I had gone from living like secondhand through my brother. Like I always would do anything to protect him. But now I'd gone from that to like feeling that fear in myself. All of a sudden I couldn't share lunches. I couldn't like swap food with my friends. Like Ari had grown up allergy free, but I had grown up eating what I wanted outside of the house. So now I had to start being scared. Like, and then it was a whole nother development for me to start learning how to navigate high school, because I was very close to high school when I got diagnosed, navigating high school, navigating social scenes, and then navigating college with food allergies.
And Crohn's.
It was a double whammy, but I think I'm good now. And hey, I can eat seeds again. Woohoo!
And vegetables.
So I healed from that.
But that's not to say that there aren't, like, autoimmune diseases.
There's good days and bad days.
There's good days and bad days. It's never linear. It's like a leaky boat. One, you spring a leak and you
plug it up,
and then another one springs. But that's the nature, I think, of chronic illness. And I think there's a lot of people who think, oh, you just change your diet, you can get rid of it. But that doesn't always work. It may work for some. It doesn't work for others. Yeah.
It's a very unique person by person.
Crohn's is a very unique, there is no one diet for Crohn's. It really depends on
just like there's also no one treatment plan for food allergies.
This is true.
I mean, I'm sure similar diets, don't eat nuts, don't eat eggs, but like, you know what I mean.
Avoidance, but there is no one diet. It's really, there's so many factors that go into treating each person's individual Crohn's. There's the severity of the Crohn's, where it's located, symptoms, how long there's so many different factors.
Certain foods or environmental responses can like trigger, they call it a flare up. So like right now, my Crohn's is in remission. So I look to the average person perfectly healthy. I can do anything you can do, I can do with a bad stomach. But if like sometimes I'm really, really stressed, or sometimes I get very sick, or I eat a food that hurts my stomach, it can trigger what they call a flare-up. So
I think autoimmune disease teaches us that you can't always go so hard, and you shouldn't have to. It shouldn't be like go all the time. I'll sleep when I'm dead. I've heard people say things like that, like I don't need to sleep. Well, actually, you really do need to sleep, and your immune system needs you to sleep. And I think it has really it has humbled us, and myself included. And I don't have Crohn's, but it has taught me to respect our body.
I was about to say that.
Okay, well,
sorry. I'll say my other thing next. Okay.
I think it's been a real lesson for us over the last few years in terms of what we need to do to take care of ourselves. And, you don't have to run the farthest or the hardest or lift the hardest, or, you have to treat your body well. You have to give it rest, you have to give it water, you have to give it nourishing food, and you have to give it self-care. And I think I'm sure you can talk about this, living in college, it's not, and you can talk about it also. Once you living in college, it's not always easy to do that.
I think it's also taught me a lot about, and this ties in with food allergies directly, but it's taught me a lot about the power of not being afraid to ask for what you need from others. With Crohn's, sometimes I have to ask for special accommodations, or I have to ask for an extension because I'm not feeling well. Like that was a really hard thing to learn how to do, to ask for help. And it's the same with food allergies. I used to hate going to restaurants with my friends because Leia had to call the manager, Leia had to speak with a chef, Leia couldn't order unless it was not free. And I would get laughed at, and I would be so ashamed of that. But it took me a really long time to not be afraid to clearly state what I can and can't do and clearly state my boundaries. And there should be no shame in saying, I can't eat this, or can I see a manager? And that's still something I'm really grappling with, because it is hard to be looked at as quote, quote, different, or quote, quote, the odd one out. But there should be no shame in taking care of our bodies and asking for what we need. I think it's taught me a lot about that.
Preach. Yeah, that's something that I deal with, especially when I was, living on campus before the whole Zoom University thing happened. With
Me too.
with
Yeah.
with the cafeteria at my university, and having it where people would give me odd looks if they saw that I had a different meal than everybody else, because I would go and communicate with the head chef in my cafeteria, and I was like, hey, like, these are the things that I'm allergic to. What can you all do to be able to accommodate for that? Especially because one of the main reasons why I chose my university was because of them having like all these big signs talking about food
Me
allergies,
too.
and having a section for like gluten-free breads, and dairy-free this, and vegan station this, and all of these other different friendly options. And so having it where you have to constantly defend yourself into why you're always asking questions, or why you're always like, let me see a manager, like you mentioned, Leia, and having to kind of be like, this is the reason why, and then having to deal with eye rolls, people not understanding where you're coming from, people thinking like you can just pick the cheese off if you have a dairy allergy,
Exactly.
or
Right.
it's that's happened to me so many times. Or having it where it reminds me of an instance where I was at a summer camp, and they were ordering pizza, and I had told them that I have dairy allergies, and they said they were going to order me a pizza that didn't have any cheese on it, which was fine with me because that's normally how I eat my pizza anyway. And then kept getting questioned by other people at the camp, like, oh, well, should you not be eating pizza anyway because of this being in the pizza crust, of dairy being in the pizza crust? And I'm like, there's no dairy in pizza crust. But, and it's just having to deal with people thinking like they know more about
Yeah.
your allergies
Yeah.
or immune conditions more than you do. And it's
Right.
like, I've
Oh,
been living with this for years. So,
We actually had a waiter once.
I knew
We
you were going to
went
say this.
get
You're so
the
funny.
We had a waiter once. He didn't think he knew more. He was just trying to show us that he knew
Oh God, this
something, but
story
he
is
really
so
didn't.
funny.
We went to this pizza place that we had heard was nut free, and we were very excited about it. So of course we sit down, we ask all the questions, is there egg in the pizza crust, blah, blah, blah. And so he said, so you don't want cheese on that?
And we're like, why
We're
would
like,
we want cheese?
why wouldn't we want cheese?
Because you have an egg allergy. We're like, cheese doesn't have egg
Egg.
in it.
And
Okay.
that's not the first time that's happened.
Oh God, no.
And
insert the
okay with
thinking
someone,
emoji.
I'm okay with the waiter saying, listen, I really don't know that. Let me go check.
It's when they
I
assume
much
to
prefer
know.
that when they try to make come off like, well, I do know what you're talking, when you really
You don't.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's that those are the moments that you're just like, come on. I would rather you, like you said, Rachel, admit I don't know what
Yeah.
you're talking about, but let me go find somebody that probably has more of an idea than I do. Rather than making all of these different assumptions of things that they might have heard in the media, or things they might have saw on TikTok, or things like that. And then that is how they make their decisions, and how they're going to interact with people that they think have like an allergy to something else, when that's not really what they're trying to communicate. And like, I don't know, I feel like people in the whole allergy and immune space understand, but like people who are not in that space, it's very hard for them to, they tend to link all of the allergies together, and they're like, oh, well, if you're allergic to this, then you're probably allergic to this, this, and this. And it's like, just listen to what I'm saying.
Yeah. Just listen.
I think that's really true, though. People in the autoimmune community, I think, do understand it a little bit better, because so many people in the autoimmune community are on some kind of restricted eating or diet, whether it's paleo or Whole30 or AIP or a specific carbohydrate diet. I mean, they're all on something. So I think,
in the spirit of transparency, I do not know what any of those diets mean. Not any of them.
I think they are more sensitive because while they may not be eating those foods, they may not be allergic, they know that those foods, don't make them feel well, and it can, create a flare up, or it can make their condition worse. So I agree with you on that. I think they are more sensitive to it.
Yeah, it sucks, but I feel like people should just ask more questions instead of make a bunch of assumptions. I think that would help across the board, especially seeing different TV shows or different things on social media where there's depictions of autoimmune conditions and diseases and allergies of any sort, and then people, desensitizing the severity of them.
Oh my God, I could talk about that for hours. Oh, why does the bullied kid always have to have food allergies and it's looked at as like a problem? They're like, oh, he ruins everything. He's allergic to peanuts. Get the EpiPen. Like, I hate that.
And why are allergic reactions considered
funny?
Comic gold?
It's like, not funny.
Why do writers, producers, of movies and television shows think that a child or even an adult having an allergic reaction is funny? It's not funny.
No, it's not. I don't get that at all.
I see it more and more often in mainstream media, and it baffles me. Like, we'll turn it off, or I can't even tell you how many comedians we have now, like, we don't talk about.
It's a lack of empathy that we wouldn't want anyone else to feel like hurt by. So I do not like how they're represented like that. I think my favorite thing though is when people like actually just demonstrate that they care. Like, you don't have to understand, you don't have to know. As long as I know that you're looking out for me, or that you know and respect that I have allergies, or you just care about me, like, that makes a world of difference. That really, really does. Right. Just to know someone cares.
If a parent called me and said, hey, we're having a birthday party, I know Ari can't eat, what can I provide for them? That alone, just the reaching out, just telling me that you care, that made all the difference to me. And chances are I would probably have him bring his own thing, because I don't trust anybody providing anything for my child. But the fact that somebody reached out and made the effort,
that's all it takes. That's all it takes. If you literally just ask or show any sign of like, I'm here to help you, even if you can't eat, or just letting me know, like, oh my goodness, that means the world to me every time.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But on that topic, what are some other things that you think like you would give as advice to people who may not have food allergies or autoimmune conditions, and they're not personally dealing with it, but they're around people that do? What is your advice to them on how to be able to, show that support that we've been talking about?
I'd say just openly listen. Like, really just take the time in this space to listen to if they're suffering from an autoimmune condition or allergies, just take the time to listen to what they really need from you. I feel like that makes a world of difference. How about you, Mom?
No, I agree with you.
Oh, wow, that's a first.
I agree with you. I mean, if somebody, I spent a very big chunk of my early parental life trying to be perfect when it came to food allergies. I always felt like people looked at food allergies because, again, this was a long time ago. Nobody really knew about food allergies. Nobody really knew about celiac. Nobody knew about any of that stuff. So I felt like I was always climbing an uphill battle. And I felt like it was my responsibility to be the educator all the time because it was my kid. And along with that, I felt that it was my job to kind of dispel all the myths about food allergies and food. So I would always try to make like the cupcakes perfect, so they look just like the regular cupcakes. And, the cake had to be, and I would get very frustrated because I am anything but a decorator. Like, I am the anti-artist. I mean, it took me a very long time for like a 2-layer cake not to look like a disaster. So I was
It
always
was adorable, the Leaning Tower of cake.
yeah, I was always trying to make things look perfect so that the non-allergy community would say, oh, that looks normal, you know? So if somebody would have said to me, Rachel, this is great and you're keeping your kids safe, don't worry about it, I probably would have backed off. But, if I had known then what I know now, that really intent trumps perfection. Intent trumps perfection. It's not about it being perfect, it's about the intent. And the intent is to keep my kids safe and to make something that he can eat or she can eat that's delicious, that they love, and that it's safe. That kind of became my mantra. And I still kind of go cuckoo when it comes to like a cake. And if it's not coming out, the kids know that as soon as the first foot stamp happens in the kitchen, like it's abort mission, like leave the house, possibly the country, because there's going to be like a whole bunch of stuff going on and things are going to come out of my mouth and it's not pretty. But I've gotten a little bit better over the years because at the end of the day, I'm keeping them safe.
Exactly. And that's what's the most important for sure. But could you walk us through, like the journey of the challenges that you've all had with, discovering your family's, dietary restrictions, whether it's due to allergies, autoimmune conditions, and how this led to you all both starting your YouTube channel because I said so.
If you had told me a few years ago that we'd be doing this,
you would have laughed. It was a lot of unique circumstances.
I didn't even know what a podcast was a few years ago.
Okay, so I say you start with the, we're just going to riff off each other. So you start with the challenges. I'll pop in with the YouTube channel. It'll all be good.
The challenges. Challenges. I mean, the challenges are everything that we've been discussing. The challenges are that the food allergy changes people's lives. And the thing is that, I'm discussing what it was like, back in the early 2000s when there was no information and I felt overwhelmed. And the interesting thing is that there is so much information now and people are even more overwhelmed. And you can go on any social media group for food allergies and it's story after story of people being worried and what do I do? And this happened to my child and what should I do? And have you seen, what are the ingredients? And people are still overwhelmed and scared. That doesn't change. The landscape has changed a little bit. There's more things that we can buy now. So that's not as challenging as it used to be. Family vacations are always challenging. We don't like flying a lot. So, our method of travel has been by car. And, going on vacation is really no vacation for me because
we've packed like giant coolers.
We're packing coolers and I'm cooking and then we're finding a hotel with a kitchen and then we have to go grocery shopping and it's not, it's all.
That's me and my family.
Those are challenges, right? Those don't change. The process becomes easier.
Yeah. The challenge in particular that led to the creation of the YouTube sensation cooking show, because I said so.
She loves saying that.
I love saying it.